4-0. 4-0 to Cardiff. Don't get me wrong. I know Cardiff are one of the better teams in the Championship. Don't kid me there. But still, look. To be honest, today I had the lads round to watch the game as it was on TV, and Sunderland aren't on TV very often. Thank God for that, truth be told, because every time we are on TV, we keep getting hammered every week. So, you know, there's not much more to add on that one. As much as I didn't expect anything from today, as much as in I didn't think we would get anything, I still felt like, well, there was a chance there really for the taking because Cardiff had lost their last 4 games. I had to really think hard about what I said in the Middlesbrough review last week, or Middlesbrough match reaction, whatever you want to call it, just so I can try and avoid repeating the same things over and over again. Because it's getting to the stage now, I wasn't even going to originally do a video for this. But it got to the point where I was talking to one of my friends and I thought, you know what, I think there's a few more things I do need to get off my chest. And this may come out as complete miscoherent crap, but quite frankly, it's something for you guys. So just bear in mind that this probably isn't going to be as good. Hopefully, though, it is. But we'll see. Look, I mean, this is the thing that frustrates me most about Sunderland whenever I watch them. Is the fact that you look at the Barnsley and Cardiff games, the last 2 league games, they are 2 prime examples of what I'm talking about. Barnsley hadn't won in 10, beat us. Cardiff had lost their last 4, beat us. That's the... If Sunderland were professional enough and took advantage of these things and actually beat these teams, then, irrespective of league positions, then I couldn't complain because I feel like, well, that's what we should be doing. We should be taking advantage of these situations. Now, in saying that, now I want to quickly mention a tweet here, actually. I've asked on Twitter if there's any questions, but in case there isn't, this is at least something I can go off. There's a tweet, Callum McKay. Now, I used to write for a broker report, and I don't write for them anymore. However, there is someone called Callum McKay who, let's just say he wasn't a big fan of Moyes last year, and having thought back on it, yeah, justifiably. But, let's go for it. Basically, he said something along the lines of, in order for the players to be here and in order for them to buy in the club, there has to be something for them to buy into. And it was basically something along the lines of what is there for them to buy into. So I'm going to quickly see if I can find the tweet and just sort of try and read it for you guys. I did also, I've had a couple of comments on what I was saying that I was going to do a video. One of them is actually from a Newcastle fan who I do get on fairly well with on Twitter, I must say. She's called Steph, so she basically was just saying that we're doomed, and so are they. Like, well, I don't know about that one, Steph, because I think at least, unlike our lot, your lot seem to be trying. One thing that it pains me to admit it, one thing that I can't criticise Newcastle players of, and it seems a lot of them can't criticise them of, is work ethic, because they seem to want it. Sure as hell wish our players would want it that much. Okay. He's put, if you want players to fully buy into SAFC, there has to be something there for them to buy into. Well, I've messed that tweet up, but it's along those lines. The club is soulless and rudderless, only intent on staving off short-term ruin until we're sold. Would you buy into this project? Now, straight away for me, the answer for that should be yes. Because as much as our financial situation, as much as our situation in general doesn't look any good, Sunderland are still a massive club, and no one is ever going to dissuade me of that opinion. Anyone with half a common brain cell knows that Sunderland are a huge club. There's such potential with the stadium size, the fan base, the facilities, the structure that is there. There is something there to turn us into a really successful club. We've just been horrendously mismanaged over the last decade or so, and it's got to the point, and this is definitely, I think, the worst moment since I started. Well, it's definitely the worst moment since I started following Sunderland, started supporting them properly. But you look for a lot of them. Yeah, the people have had spells with the 3rd division. A lot of people are saying this is the worst team they've ever seen. If you're talking about it in comparison to teams that have been in the Premier League, yeah, they're probably right. Should it be so terrible again, though, that it justifies being bottom of the Championship? For me, no. And I'm not going to get into that again because I've got into that plenty of times. The only half positive I can take from today is the fact that, Barnsley didn't win, even though they got a point against Wolves. Hull got a draw, but to be honest, I don't see Hull as... I know Hull are down there at the moment, but I'm very surprised if Hull are down there at the end of the season. So really, the ones we should be looking out for, Birmingham, Burton and Bolton, and possibly Barnsley. I just think that it's frustrating because there seems to be so much shit that we're expected to take as Sunderland fans. And there seems to be a case of, maybe it's going to get worse before it gets better. Well, I'd like to see the start getting better part. I'd like to see us jump straight to that, please, because I think we've had enough shit to deal with over the last few years. Right, here's one from James XO. So we've had him on the podcast before. We need to do one again at some point, actually. But we've had him on the podcast before, but we interact regularly enough on Twitter. So cheers for your question, man. It's basically, even with Coleman, is there any hope of us staying up? There should be. If there's no hope of us staying up, then what's the point? I think that for me, there should be more than enough. I mean, I think that if Coleman can add a goal scorer in there, and I think if we can stop making daft mistakes at the back, then I don't see any reason for me why staying up is beyond hope. And in fact, what I think I will do is I'll get the league table up while I'm here. What I will say, but while to try and stall for that, is the fact that the next 2 games we've got coming up, Hull at home, Birmingham away, massive, massive, massive fixtures. And it's getting to a point now, where I was asked before today, would I take a point? Obviously, in hindsight now, definitely would have taken a point. But I kept saying we have to have other results go in our favour for me to take a point, and also we'd have to beat Hull next week. So let's look at the table, shall we? Okay, table. Once my phone wants to stop being so slow. Right. Now, even then, the gap's only 3 points. Last time I checked, 3 points isn't insurmountable. And as much as we got hammered today, which really doesn't help our situation, thanks Cardiff, we still have the best goal difference out of the 4 bottom teams. So, look, in that sense, the goals themselves today, I felt like pretty much all of them were hopeless mistakes. For me, people seem to be blaming Reuter for the first one. For me, Billy Jones I thought was outmuscled too easily, and I do agree with Peter, by the way, in what he says, where we do need pace and power. The only thing is, for Sunderland, surely the common sense thing would be to sign pace and power. So why did they not do it then? I don't quite understand that. We've got is a Clark Salter on loan from Chelsea, so obviously he didn't have a particularly great game. No one had a good game today, really. Truth be told, the next couple of weeks are just going to have to be standby results. Like try and see what we can get. In order for that, and then we need to sort of really get some players in. I'm rambling on here. The game itself, we were into it. We were in the game till half time, and then look what happened. We just conceded 4 goals, and it's annoying because again, we gave the game away within 10 minutes of the second half. We were 2-0 down, and Ndong was sent off. Oh yeah, because Ndong really looks like he's up for it, doesn't he? Obviously, for those of you who don't know, I think the Sunderland Echo reported this week that Ndong said he wanted to leave. As far as I'm concerned, just go away. I don't want anything to do with you then. If you're going to be like that, then no. I understand we're not exactly in a great situation, but to answer Callum's question, as in, is there anything to buy into? Well, yeah, there should be something to buy into. It's called the fans, mate. It's called the fans. And unfortunately, football just doesn't work like that anymore. But that doesn't justify it, though, does it? It doesn't mean that we should just accept it. Come on. Footballers should be wanting to play for the supporters. You can't tell me unless you're Jack Rodwell, are you happy to just sit there and just pick up your wages and not be remembered for anything? Good. Are you really happy to just sit there and be remembered for nothing? Well, by the looks of it, the answer could be yes, certainly as far as Sunderland's team's concerned. I'm getting deflated just talking about Sunderland again, because again, it's the same crap. This basically is like the Middlesbrough 2.0 video. That's what it is. I can't really think of it. There's not much new to say, and I've somehow managed to waffle on for just under 10 minutes. In terms of today, I enjoyed it with my mates. I actually enjoyed just sitting around, goofing around a bit, watching a movie, playing on FIFA and all that. I enjoyed that sort of stuff. And to be honest, I'm still to this day not even 100% bothered that we lost. I think it's now got the point where you're beaten into submission and accepting mediocrity for so long that you just accept it. You just accept it's a part of your weekend. It just doesn't bother you as much anymore. And it's really sad that it's come to this. And I was thinking about this on Twitter, actually. And I was saying it to a couple of my friends earlier. Think back to that game when we beat Everton 3-0 under Allardyce. I know I keep mentioning that game a lot. But you look back at even when I did that match reaction after that game outside the Stadium of Light, you look at when we beat Everton, we stayed up, we sent Newcastle down, which in itself was great, but at the same time, the more important issue was the fact that we stayed up with hope, we stayed with a Premier League quality team. When you had Kirchhoff, you had Mbia, yes, you even had Catmull in that team, people forget that. You had Kabul, you had Kone, who at the time was performing at the level he should be performing now. You've got Defoe, who was in that team. You've got Kazri as well. You had Barini, who in my opinion again was performing well enough in that team. You had a lot of players, but crucially, you had a couple of key players that were quality, and you had a good team spirit there. You had a manager who knew what he was doing. It's ridiculous how we've descended from that to this. It's massively worrying how the massive decline in just 18 months. That's alarming. That's very alarming. And it's upsetting. It really is upsetting to me to think that, what's happened to us? What's happened? As the other thing I want to mention, there's been ALS Twitter account had been sort of saying the word was that we were going to sort of try and do a protest after the whole game. I can see both sides of the argument for protesting. I think protesting does make you look a bit fickle, but at the same time, if it's the only way to really get your message across, why not do it? Our fans can't be happy with the situation here. Like I keep saying, if people think that 24th is where this group of players should be, below Burton, Bolton and Barnsley and Millwall and all them, then fine, that's your opinion. But in my opinion, we certainly shouldn't be below those teams. I think we should be in and around them at least, above them. But obviously, I'm just going to repeat myself. I've said it loads of times. But for me, protests are one that I think it's a possibility we should have to think of. Even someone on Twitter who's a Swansea fan, she sent me a link to an article, and it was basically saying that Swansea fans sort of protested, and look what happened from there. So, that sort of benefited Swansea to an extent. I know they're not in a great situation at the moment. Obviously, they were 1-0 up against Newcastle and didn't win, but at the same time, it sort of got them to the Premier League, gotten to a point where at least they have something, they have Premier League survival to fight for. Sunderland, I'm just thinking, well, we have to strongly show the owner that this isn't good enough. And this leads you on to the next point, Ellis Short. I'm trying hard here not to repeat myself, but it's difficult. It really is difficult. And I think with Ellis Short, everyone said it already. You've either got to invest a bit more money, or you've just got to sell up. You look at the fact we had an offer from a German consortium in the summer. Who's Ellis Short to say that, that's not what Sunderland's best interest is? Well, I'm sorry, mate, but given that you've only given us $1.5 million to spend, $1.5 million in the Championship, when the aim should be to get back to the Premier League, then who are you? Who on earth are you to decide that? Who on earth are you to decide that? And I've had a debate with a couple of other fans on Twitter about Martin Bain. Look, I still believe Martin Bain has, to a degree, had it rough. But I'm very hot. I'm give or take on Martin Bain at the moment. I could be persuaded either way now. But I just think, Ellis, you've got to give them something to play with, man. Seriously. If you look at the Ndong and Kone thing, if we sell them, we're not going to see any of that money. So you could argue, what's the point? Well, certainly with Kone, if they both don't want to be here, then of course there's every reason to sell them. But for me, how's it got to this? Seriously? Like I said, the fans should be enough motivation for those players. Bradley Larry, even though he's no longer with us, God bless him, should be enough motivation for those players because he showed more fight in his battle with cancer. And I'm sure his parents, I'm hoping your parents, if they're watching this, I'm hoping I haven't just brought too much misery to you by mentioning that. But he showed more fight and effort and heart and passion through that than what those spineless bastards, excuse my language, have been showing on the pitch for the last season and a half now. This isn't good enough. And I've said it many times, and I'll continue to say it until something's done about it. Fans deserve so much more. And I feel like fans have reached the point where something has to be done. We have to vehemently show the club that we are not happy with the current situation of affairs at Sunderland. I'm just going to close it there, guys. There's literally not much more I can say. Hull next week, massive game now. I will quickly talk. Vaughan's gone. Obviously, I'm quite happy about that. I couldn't fault the lad's work ethic, like I've said before, but he wasn't good enough for the Championship. Truth be told, we probably should have loaned him to Wigan, because then if we went down, we could have kept him, because he probably would have been good next season. We need a striker. Jonathan Walters has been linked, and I'll tell you what, I would take him in an absolute heartbeat. He was way better than what Vaughan will ever be. So, like I said, guys, it's me trying to repeat the same old thing. This week's huge. We can get Jonathan Walters in, and we can get maybe a couple of other players by Hull. We'll see what happens in that game. Hull is huge. Birmingham's huge. Let's see what happens at the end of those two matches and at the end of January, and we'll talk from there. Please beat Hull next week, guys. I can't take another defeat. See you later.